This conference will now be recorded.
So yesterday we are pulling some images, right? So what are the images we have pulled yesterday? And we try with Ubuntu image, also try with Jenkins image, and so we also try with port number mapping, right? Port number mapping. So how do you do the port number mapping? What is the command? Docker p port number of host port number, and then container port number 80 80. So and then your Jenkins image. And how about the volume mapping? -b. So yeah, this host path you can say host path, and then what's the default path? Yeah, what is the path for Jenkins? Flag Jenkins home. Okay, right. So yeah, we also need some user permission, correct? So anyone tried that Jenkins container port number mapping? And also make sure, so this is your host port number, right? That's your host port number. So in order to access this port number 8081 on the host, so you must have the port, your host must allow the port number, right? Host must allow the port number. How do you set the port numbers on host? Where do you do that? Security groups. And then security groups. So do I need to change these groups only or anything else? Any other type of rules? The security groups or anything else? What are rules set up? So you said you have launched Jenkins container, right? What rules you have set up? Which one? Do we need to change the securities only or anything else? Only security group? NACL, correct. But why in my case, I have not changed security groups? Sorry, NACL. It's a default network. So on default network, default VPC. Okay, so you have, what else we have? By default, what is the NACL? All right. So that's the reason you don't need to set it up. Okay. But how about in security groups? Yes, security groups must be set up, but I have set up the security groups for the instance. So already, so while I was setting up the instance, so that security group and inbound rules. I'll set up the inbound rules of this. Scroll up. So to all, okay, that's to all. So that is reason. Okay. So, but all is not secure. If all is not secure, then we change the security groups. Now, what type of rule we set up? The port range is all right. So if you want to change the setup, okay, so just modify the security. So edit inbound rules. I don't want all traffic. So I want to change security types. What type of rules I change? HTTP, SSH. Yeah, okay, SSH. Okay, that's fine. SSH. Then what else? HTTP, right? So HTTP. It's a web server, right? Jenkins. So Jenkins is running on 8080 port number. Since Jenkins is running on 8080 port number, you select the port number is 8081. Sorry, right? The port number we are mapped to 8081. So, and then select the role type is HTTP, and then so you can go with some custom or anywhere so that you can do it, or else I want to say I want to set up some port number, okay, some range of port number. So here HTTP is 80 by default, right? I want to set up my own range port numbers. So how do you do that? Go with all TCP, not all TCP, custom TCP. Okay, so you can set up over here and type of protocols, type of port numbers. I mean, so 8080, and you can just go with so whatever it is, 80, and then something like 8085. Then it is going to allow only between these port numbers. If your host port number is, so let's say I have mapped the port number to 8086, right? So is it allowed? The request will be rejected. Okay, yeah. So make sure about this. Let's log into the EC2 instance or Docker host. So that's our instance. So how do I see the running containers? Docker. Yes. So we have a running container, and if I want to stop the container, Docker stop container ID, and list all containers. So now let's try with and a different container. let's take a container or image, I mean. So we'll try with Nagios. Okay, let's try with the Nagios image. So what is the purpose of Nagios? So Nagios is an monitoring tool. Okay, so Nagios is a monitoring tool, and so what is the purpose of this Nagios tool is? So for monitoring your instances. Okay, let me first launch it. So go with Nagios. So dot. So go with Nagios. So look at the image. Image name starts with, so what is that? Jason Rivers. So that he is the owner of the image. So the custom images always start with, so what's the name? Name of the user and then your image name. Okay. So there you see that it's the owner. And now I'm going to pull it. Let's go with copy that. Docker pull image name. So these are all layers. So I downloaded the image, and then so Docker images. So what's the images? It is, where is that? Jason Rivers, and then image name is Nagios, and what is the version is latest. Okay. Now just wait here. Within this, you can see the port number mapping all these options over here, and you can map the port number. The default port number is 80, and I can map that to 8081. So that Docker run, and then image name, and then with port number. What is the option? P, and then 81. Okay, whatever. And then the default is 80. Okay. So do I need to run it in interactive mode? So I don't need to run it in interactive mode. Why? This is not an OS container, so you don't need to run it in interactive mode. Okay. Enter. This is launched successfully. Now back to the browser. So IP address, what is my host IP address? That's host IP address. And then the port number is 80, 81, 81 or 88? 81. Okay. Maybe 81. So here, log into your Nagios. Yeah. Now, so let me show you how to log in. And so you log in with the help of the default credentials. The credentials are These are the default credentials. And then the password was Nagios is the password. Okay. Sign in. Now let me show you the Nagios, how we need Nagios. So in AWS, we have used an monitoring tool. What is that? CloudWatch, right? This, we use Nagios for local instances. I have some number of local instances. I want to monitor my instances. We can use Nagios. You have number of hours you want to monitor them. So see your usage. So in the middle you have your Nagios process, and then it is going to show you list of servers connected to Nagios, and then we can monitor these instances. Well, let me show you that. So this is our Nagios home page, and then so I want to see that how many number of instances it is connected to. You can click on the map view, click on the map. Okay. So mail we have Nagios process, but how many we are connected? We are connected only local host. So, but if you have all instances connected, you can see them something like this. This is your image. Okay. Now, once they are connected, now what is the purpose of Nagios? Like I said, you can see, so your instance's status. So what is the status of the instance? And what is the service status? For example, I want to show you, let's say, let's go with the host. Okay. So what is the host? We have connected only a local host connected. Click on the local host. Now, what is the status of this local host is? So up and running, I can see that. But I want to see, so whether this instance has any issues with its services. Okay. For example, go to services. Okay. Now, so this my instance has some issues with the services. Okay. On the local host, you can see the services here. So there is a service called HTTP service which has some warning. Okay. So and then some swaps usage. So there is some critical. What is the critical is there is no free space available. Now these are the issues. For example, I have HTTP issue. How do I fix this issue? The reason is, let's say I want to restart my HTTP service. How do I restart my HTTP service? Can I manage the services from Nagios? So Nagios is only the purpose is only for monitoring, not for managing. Okay. So I want to restart my HTTP service. Can I do it from Nagios? No. Not possible. So now you can use Ansible. So what do you want to do? What is the solution for this? I want to restart my HTTP service. Well, how do I do that? You can go to Ansible, write a playbook, and then push the configuration. That means restart. Can I do the same things from Nagios? No, it's only for monitoring, not for managing. Then, so click on the problems and then services. It is going to show you. So what are the problems? Services having some issues. Now, so Nagios purpose is, there are three purposes of Nagios. First is monitoring. So you can monitor your instances and also services on the instances. Second is generating reports. I can generate the reports. What kind of reports I can generate? So I can generate reports for the instances, also for the services. Okay. Now I want to create kind of a report saying that, so I want to take a report of my servers, and from last 15 days or 10 days, I want to generate this kind of reports. So how do I do that? Under reports, you go to availability and then start generating reports. Now, whether you want to generate reports for the host or services, go with the host. So whether you want to generate for all hosts or single host, you can select it, continue, and then so from how many days you want to generate your reports, select the number of days over here, and then, or if you have something like custom period, you can select the start date and then end date. That's for custom. Or if you want to go with so last so many days, you can select it this week. Okay, and then so report time period. So you want to generate reports for so all 24/7 or else. So you can go with including holidays or else none. So based upon US holidays or work hours, whatever, go with let's say 24/7, and then so create a report. You have your report availability, your server availability. How long this has been running? So you can see that. So percentage of time, okay, and you have any warning time and any critical issues, any undetermined issues. Okay. So let's back to previous step. I want to download the reports. You can download the reports as well, select it, and then create a report. Now that's for downloading reports. The same reports is generated again. You can take the reports. So that's the same report, but that's in CSV format. So that's your report, your uptime, and then so that's your all categories. Anyway, well, going with now. And you can also do that system maintenance. So what do you mean by system maintenance? So go with downtime. So for instance, I have an instance instance maintenance. So what is instance maintenance means? I have an instance and I want to take my instance for down for certain time of period. So for example, let's say I have some upgradations or some patch upgradations, there are some things, okay? So for the particular time, I want to take my instance down. You can set the downtime period for that particular host. Schedule it. You can do that again for the host or else for a service. Both can be done. And so mention the host IP address and then start time and then end time and for how many hours. Okay. So like anyway, we don't have any host connected, but basically in this, so what is the purpose of Nagios? Like I said, it's only for managing, only for monitoring purpose, not for managing purpose. Now, so what do we do on these Nagios? So I mean, are we going to as a DevOps engineer, are we going to manage these Nagios? So mostly Nagios setup administration will be done by the admins. So if you are given this responsibility, your responsibility has to be monitoring and generating reports. Okay. So, but configurations, those settings will be done by the admin teams. And moreover, so rather than Nagios, so mostly we use AWS. What is that? CloudWatch. But if you have any local instances, you might be using Nagios. That will be very rare. That you can. This is a Nagios, and this is another example for port number mapping. Okay. But now going back to, I just terminate the instance. So if you go with Control C, so is my container terminated? Yes, container is terminated. Okay, but how can I run my container with some within the background? So what is background means? What is background? Yes. So even if my container is, that means if I terminate them, but usually we don't terminate them. For example, what is the command to run that? Docker run and then port number with image name. If you do this, your container is running in the foreground. What do you mean by foreground? So that's in the, you have the command prompt open and it will be running. But I want to run that in the background. So that the container will be running in the background. You don't need to keep your window open. You can close the window, but the container will be still running in the background. So as an daemon, that means as a service. So how do we do that? We'll talk about it. But before we do that, so let's talk about a concept called uh, volume drivers. Volume drivers. So what is the purpose of volume drivers? Why do we need volumes? In AWS, we have gone through a concept, EBS, right? Block storage. So what's the purpose of EBS? What's the purpose? A volume can be created, and then, so once volume is created, we can attach that to a instance, the same thing. I want to attach a volume. I want to create a volume first, and later I want to attach that to a container. So even if the container is deleted, the volume still exists. Volume won't be deleted. Okay, so that's a volume concept. Now, firstly, let's see how to create volumes. Okay, how do we create volumes? And then how do we attach these volumes to the containers? Okay, let's see. Now let me run this command, which is docker info. So what docker info does? Docker info gives your Docker host information, nothing but how many containers I have, total number of containers, and how many are running, and then stop and then pass status, plus number of images I have. Your whole Docker host information, images and the containers, and plus, so look into this, Docker root directory. So what is a Docker root directory? Where lib Docker, this is your Docker root directory. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of this Docker root directory? Docker home directory. What's the purpose? Containers created. Yes. Where the containers are created. Okay, we are downloading images where the images are downloaded. So this is your Docker home directory. And cd var lib net docker. That's your Docker directory. Okay. So what is the name of it? So what is the directory name? If you want to see this first images, okay, go to images, cd overlay, and then go to image db, and then I think content, I guess, and then we open the directory. So we have images. This is the physical path where images are stored. Now, so you can see that Docker images, right? So you see the contain images IDs, same images. So that's a physical path where the containers are stored. Okay, well, and then how about the containers? Okay, let's go to containers. So open the containers directory. We have containers. How many containers we have? Docker ps ps-a. So we have these containers, right? Same containers anyway. See the same containers. So then you have volumes, CD volumes. So these are the volumes. So why we have so many volumes? We have not created any volume set, but why we have these volumes? These are the default volumes. A volume driver is created whenever the container is created. Okay, so I'm creating a container. For that container, you can see a volume driver. Okay, so volume driver is nothing but it's like block storage, EBS. Well, now going with Docker volume commands. Now go with Docker volume, then Docker volume. So we have Docker volume commands. These are the commands. Now, so here you see that you can create a volume, inspect, ls, prune, and then rm. So create means, of course, creating a volume. Inspect means you want to see the full information of the volume. ls stands for list, and prune is for, okay, let's go with rm. Rm is for removing a volume, and prune is for remove volumes, but which are unused. So if the volumes are not attached, we can remove those all volumes. Okay. So let's see first Docker volume and then ls. Now list of volumes. Okay. So it's the same volumes. Now what is our working directory? Docker volumes, and then also you can see that Docker volume ls. So both are same. So this is a physical part, and this is a command through the command. Okay. Now how do I create a volume now? So Docker volume and then create. Okay, but with some options, we have some options whenever you create a volume. So what are the options? You give a name to the volume. It's the first thing, and also size of the volume. Okay, so name is important and size is important. Also type of the volumes we have. So type of the volumes means in Windows we have different types, file system types, NTFS types. Right, we have NTFS types. The same way here we have TMPFS. Okay, so you mentioned that volume type as well. So hyphen OPT. OPT means options, and then first is type. So type is equals to TMPFS. It's a volume type, and other options are OPT, and then go with OPC. OPT is equals to size is equals to, and then O is equals to size of the volume. Just go with 300 MB, 300 EM, and then hyphen OPT. So what else is required? Name is equals, right? Name is equals to, so let's say test volume 1, and any other things required. 1 second. I think there is one more thing is required. So IDs. Device type also it's required. Device type. So after the size, there is one more attribute we have. User ID means it's like 1000 times something. Okay, so and then the type, so it's this type, and then this is the one type in device. Okay. OPT and is equals to device type. So usually device types and then name of type of the devices, and also the type is almost same mostly. This is a device type and this is a file system type. So you have device type as well as you have file system type, and then you have size and then the name of the volume. I think that should be okay. Yes, 1 second. Yeah, I think that should be okay. We'll try that. So something is error response invalid option name. Is it like not name? Void. Oh, sorry. It's only there is no option. It's only name. Just a second. For name there is no option. It's not an option. Sorry, it's not option. Option is for only for the purpose of the volume types and device types, not for the name. Name you can just provide the name. For name you can go with it. Okay. So just name. Enter. Now what is what happened again? OPTO. There is O equals to 1. So there should not be equals to OPT. Yeah. That should be okay now. Yeah. Again, size O is equals to size. O stands for option. Option is equals to size, not size. At least this should be okay now. So that is my test volume created. And how do I list the volumes? Using Docker volume. That's our volume. So I want to see the volume size. Docker volume and then inspect and the volume name. So there is my volume options I have provided, that device type and then size of the volume, okay, and then type. Right. So you need to provide some type of the volumes and also the type of the file system which you want to save on the volumes. So you have two options: device type, also the file system type. Okay. So we have volume created. Now let's see how do I attach this volume to the container which I'm going to create. Okay. So Docker run Jenkins. Okay. Before I do that, 1 second. Instead of running it, first I take my existing container. This is my Jenkins container, right? So for that container, I run Jenkins. Start Jenkins. Is it start Jenkins or run Jenkins? Start and then container ID. I want to start it first. Now the container is started. So, and every container, whenever it is running, it needs two things, right? What is that? So resources. You remember the resources concept? So how the resources are allocated for this container? Dynamically. Now, why I have started my container is I want to see how much memory is allocated for my container. Okay, so that I can put some restrictions that my container should not exceed particular limit of the memory. Are you clear? My container should not exceed the limit. What limit? Memory I'm going to set up. My container should not exceed about 300 MB to 200 MB. And how about the hard disk? How about the space allocated? Also randomly, dynamically. I want to make it static. How do you make it static? I want to put some limits. How do I do that? That's why I have created my volume drivers. So why did I do that firstly? So the purpose I created volume driver is I want to attach some particular volume drivers to my container with some specific size and also with some memory Memory will do it. So I don't want to go with dynamically, I want to make it statically. So firstly, let's see how much container memory, how much this container is using memory, and how it is done. Command is docker inspect stats, docker stats, and then container ID. Okay, so this is your memory usage of your container. Okay, so that's the memory usage. So it's 166, and what is the total? 978. So why the total is 978? Why the total is 978? What is the limit? Where the limit is taking? Sorry? Host. That's your host limit. That means your container might reach up to maximum of almost like 1 GB, 978 MB. Why? Those resources are from the host. Now that means, can you say that the container is allocated dynamically, the resources is allocated dynamically or not? Yes. Okay, but I want to make it static. So let's do it. Limit? Which limit? How this can be increased? This is your host limit, right? That's a host limit. So if you want to increase the limit of the host, you just need to attach more resources. You buy some memory, you buy hardware memory, and you attach it. Okay. So now I want to put some limits for the containers. I don't want my containers reach up to the maximum. I want to put some limits like it cannot reach beyond 200 MB or 300 MB, because there are some other containers running on my same host. I want to leave some resources available for them as well. So let's see how do we do these two things. The first thing is attaching a volume driver, also memory. Third is I want to run my container in background. Are you clear? So first, let's run your container in the background. Attach a volume, also attach memory. Yeah. So let's see. So Docker run Jenkins. First, provide with some port number mapping. How do you provide the port number? -p, and then port number. Give some port number. Default port number is 8080, and also go with volume. Now the difference between volume versus volume driver, what's the difference? Volume is, sorry. Yesterday we had done the volume mapping, right? So why? So what did we map? We map the home directories, right? So even if the container is deleted, volume will be there, of course. So volume is for mapping the home directories of the container to the host. Volume driver is nothing but, so on the container, whenever you save some data, the container is saved on the data on the container, okay, which is like space, you can say. Well, so I want to go with attach some volume, and you can mention some root. So root, and then give some name. This is for host purpose, right? Jenkins 1 something. Next is /var Jenkins _ home. Okay, fine. And then we need a user. take root user. Anything else? What are the other options? So this up to this part, we know this, right? I want to provide some name. Okay. So name is equals to, now what is the name is for? Your container name. So when the containers are created, do you see names for the containers? Do the containers have names? There are names for the containers. So go with Docker ps-a. So for the containers, that's a container ID, and then also so they have names. Containers have names. Not only images, even containers have these names. How these names are allocated? So these are random names, right? So I don't want random names. I want to give some names to my container. How do you do that? With hyphen name, and then name of the container is Jenkins container, and then so D stands for as in daemon. So I want to run that in the background. This is how you run that in the background. Okay, then. So what is -m? M stands for memory. Okay, so memory. So that's a maximum limit. Okay, so your container won't go beyond 200 limit, 200 MB. And finally, hyphen volume hyphen driver. So what is your volume driver name? Test volume 1. That's my volume name. So hyphen volume hyphen driver. That's my volume name. Okay. But if I run this, it will be a failure. So why it will be a failure? So look at my host memory. What is the host memory is? Just under 1 gigabyte, 1 GB. Now, if your host is running with very low memory, under 1 GB or so, then we cannot assign memories to the containers. Static memory allocation is not possible. If you want to do it, make sure your containers, so your host must be running with at least 2 GB or more than that. So that's why I said in initial classes, your Docker containers, mean Docker host or Kubernetes host, so they must be running with high configurations. If they run with low configurations, so these are the issues. You cannot create them. So you'll have some issues saying that. Now enter. Sorry, unable to find that. What is the issue? Tag 60.3. Now enter. So there it is. So you can see that limited swap. Okay, so there is limited. It's a warning, of course. It's a warning, but so that's not an correct way to launch it. So let me see that first. Docker PS. Okay, so that's not running. You see that it's not running. But if you go with Docker PS-A, so it is running. I mean, it is exited. What's the status is? Exited state. But look at my container name, Jenkins container. Is the name is given? The name is given. Okay, fine. And then, so let's go with. Now, is it? Now, take it first. Okay, copy that and copy the ID and go with Docker inspect. Docker inspect and then container ID. I want to see the volume driver. So let's go with first. So this is your volume, right? This is your volume, and I want to see the volume driver, and that has been mapped. Did we mention the port number? Did we not mention the port number? Mentioned it. Okay. So the volume driver. What is the driver name? Test volume 1. That's my driver name. Okay. So, but what if I go with, where is my container? That's my container. So can I use that Docker stacks for the container? So you can check the statistics only for if the containers are running, not for stop. If the containers are not running, so how can you check the statistics? But anyway, you see the container name, that's your container name. Okay. But if you want to do this, then on your EC2 instances, so you must have your instance running with at least 2 GB. So instead of taking T2.micro instances, you can take other type of instances. Okay. So then, so run the try that command. So was that command clear? So that's the total command. And remember all these options. So memory, volume drivers, and then port numbers. So all these ones. So we'll be using them name in the future, but through Kubernetes. So writing some manifest. We'll be writing some configurations in the manifest. Okay. So okay, let's stop it for today. Well, so any questions? Now try this same command, and I have shown you another image, right? Anyone tried that Tomcat image? Error? What error? Anyone else tried Tomcat image? 404 not found. Did you have the port number? Still showing same error? So just look on the Docker Hub. So Tomcat. So mostly I think the reason is when you run this Tomcat, so you need to do something in different actually. So what do you do when you run that Tomcat? Try this. Let me show you the command. The reason why you're getting that error is Tomcat is not running. So you have run that image, but is Tomcat running actually? By default, Tomcat status is stop status. Tomcat status is stop status. So that is the reason it is so stop. Okay. Now, so try this. What you can try. You can log into the container, start your, there is something called container.sh, do that, run that, or else. So then Like that. So that's a command. Now, so I'm just launching it in interactive mode, okay, with port number and then the image and then CMD is Catalina SSH start. What is that CMD? Why we need CMD command? So whenever you start your container, I want my Catalina.sh has to be running. So what CMD command does? CMD make sure that I want to run some commands by default whenever I start my container. I'm starting a container, but the default status of the Tomcat is stop status. But I want to make sure it is started. How do you start that? So Catalina.sh and then status is run. So what CMD does? CMD makes sure, so whenever you run any container, the container has to run with some default commands. You can go with that Catalina.sh and then run. That works. Then you can access that through the port number. Okay. Yeah. So was it clear? That's the reason it is given here as an run the default Tomcat server. If you want to run the default Tomcat server, run this command. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? And also try this. I think you won't be able to do it. Leave it. But you can try that. So once Tomcat is running and you're able to access Tomcat, take a WAR file and copy that to the container. The question is, okay, so let me make it simplified. How do you copy files to container? So try that, okay? Don't worry about sample WAR file. So let me know the answer for this. I have some files which I want to copy that to the Tomcat. How do I copy files to Tomcat? So whatever you want to use, just do it. Whether you want to use some tools or something, so let me know the answer. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? So do these two things. But before that, you try that volumes concept and then try for Nagios and Tomcat and then Steams. You can take any container. So you can take your Ubuntu container. I have an Ubuntu container. To that Ubuntu container, I want to copy some files. How do I copy? Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? Sorry. My monitoring tool. How can we? Uptime, downtime. So you can see there, right? So you have the host over there. When you just look into that Nagios, so they can go to the host. So I think is my container running? I don't know. Click on host. So you can see there, right? When you go to the host, so you have some options there. So what is uptime? What is the downtime? Not to, sorry. Yeah, that can be done. That can be done through the Nagios. We can set up, you can schedule it. So what is the host IP and what time to what time you want to take your instance down. That can be done. I've shown you that last step, right? So downtime, you can set the downtime. It can be done. but only that can be done, not for so managing your servers. So those things mean not for restarting your services. So that cannot be done. Only for you want to set up particular downtime from so and so time to so and so time, that can be only done. So you cannot restart your servers, you cannot shut down your servers, you cannot restart your services, installing configurations. Those things cannot be done. Okay. Anything else? Just a second. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.